Okay, hello. Welcome to episode 15 of Should I Make My Family Watch, a podcast where I make my family and friends watch crappy horror and sci-fi movies so you don't have to. I'm your host, Desiree, and my guest today is author Onyx Brightwing. Hello, Onyx.
Hi.
I almost called you hello, author.
That would be okay.
Together, we're going to give you a breakdown of the storyline of this piece of crap, and then we're going to rate the movie on a shit scale of 1 to 5. 1 is only a little bit shitty. 5 is the worst, biggest pile of crap to grace us with its presence. And so it's kind of the opposite scale here. Today's piece of crap is the 2021 release of It Came From Below. So if anybody has not seen it and wants to, stop listening. Otherwise, we're going to get started. I had the names of these people last night in my head, and now I can't remember what they are, but there is a sister and a brother, which I'm pretty sure is Jesse and Sam. I'm hoping that's them. And their father is basically the town crazy person who's convinced that a cave he went in has some sort of creature in it. And he keeps all these journals, and I guess that's how he's crazy, is because he keeps a lot of journals and talks about it. And then he's dying of cancer, and his daughter decides that she would like to prove his craziness right. And so she wants to journey to the place where he's written about with her brother and ex-boyfriend and brother's girlfriend.
I wasn't clear if that was like brother's girlfriend or if it was Marty's new girlfriend. They never really cleared that, so I don't know.
I feel like it was
the other
supposed to
guy
be...
was Marty.
Oh, that's the only name I didn't catch. And that was the kind of weird-looking, taller boy, I think.
Yeah, he was real skinny and looked like he should be in Harry Potter.
Yeah, okay. So they all decide that they are going to hike, backpack into this cave in this national park system that can only be found by the map that they have. They stop into the ranger station, and this is where I was all on board for this until they got to the ranger station. I don't even know why they went in to get permits, and then the rangers are like, don't go in the caves because it's dangerous. You shouldn't go in there. Like, we really can't help you if you go in there. And immediately they're like, do you have any food? Like,
no.
Why? Why would the ranger... Why? Why would you even think that... And then they gave him food. That's what boggled my mind.
They said that they needed a permit to go into the cave, and they said no, and they still let them go anyways, which they're supposed to be park rangers, and it's like, okay, that's your job, and you're just going to let them wander off, and like...
To be fair, they probably didn't think they were going to make it. I mean, because they didn't have food, apparently. Like, they just decided to backpack out of there with what? With
bananas.
I didn't even see sleeping bags.
Yeah,
they had the rangers' bananas.
Yeah, I was like, why are all 4 of them eating bananas? That's what they're going to take to them in this giant hole in the ground.
Well, that's where I was like, the sense of entitlement that you see begins there. Of like, oh, well, can we have some food while we go do this clearly dangerous thing that we are physically unprepared for because we want to, and then you have to help us.
They did.
Only she did. She had 2 of them on there, and I never saw her use them.
Nope.
So they get the permits, they hike to this cave, and then they decide to go in because they want footage. And I kind of lost a little bit in there as they went in. I know at some point they discover there is something in the cave, and it kind of messes with your brain. And I remember the stupidest line was when, I think it was Marty says, it's the pressure, it messes with your head. I'm like, okay, you're not going like down. They're clearly just walking straight into a cave. There's no like descent really, except for that first little part. And he starts hearing whispers that make him see things. When I think he sees his friends are, I don't know if they were dead people or people that he knew before, but they're not the same. And so he runs away into the cave screaming. which
Yeah. Don't know what they are, and they see those weird chalk drawings. But before that, when they go into the cave, I just have to say, it just, the cave just looks like, I don't know, a giant vagina that they're going into.
into the mother.
Yeah, I was like, what? And it doesn't even look real. It's just all CGI'd. It's like, yeah, like they didn't even have the budget until they get into the cave. And then the cave, like the set kept on changing. And I got really confused because everybody was walking around and even I got lost. I was like, okay, if I were on the set, I wouldn't know what direction I would be going in because it looked like it was not the same set at some point. So
I think it was supposed to be implying that they're getting deeper and deeper in the cave. And I know that they had a ball of string to help keep them on track.
Yes, which they could magically see even though it was so dark. They could
had like
still
2
see
headlamps. Yeah, and it was black. It was black string.
Yeah, sometimes the headlamps would like blind you when you were watching it, and then other times it seemed like they hardly worked. And I was just like, what? They just blinded me on screen, and now like you can hardly see anything where they're walking. I'm like, what is that? And they had a flashlight too. I'm like, that is so dumb. I'm like, and one of the people kept on saying, I think we should go back. And of course, none of the characters listen because they never listen in horror movies.
Well, I feel like their plan was a little half-cocked anyway, because they were going to go into this cave with their only equipment to be ready for this was a ball of yarn and a bike helmet for one of them.
Yes, bike helmets. That's what I wrote.
Yeah.
They looked like they were all wearing bike helmets and like, I don't know.
Except for one of them. One of them had a construction helmet, like an actual insert. I saw. Another one had a bike helmet, and then I think someone else had like a skateboarding helmet. So they just grabbed whatever they had, and they're like, "It's good." And then they were going to go into the cave to try to get an image of this creature that her dad was obsessed with. That was like their whole
journal. The weird journal.
Well, I don't understand what, aside from telling them how to get into the cave, what catalyst the journal offered them.
It had a picture of the aliens, so maybe they were going to compare it. Or maybe he wrote down his experiences. I don't know. Maybe they thought, oh, is this going to happen to us? And they wanted to compare it. I don't know. I don't even know what the strange symbols were like on the wall. And it looked like there was slimy stuff and then blood at one point, but we don't know whose blood it was. Or why there was slime. I don't know.
The Marty runs off, hears the voices, goes kind of crazy, gets injured. And he's the one consistently throughout the movie who's claiming to hear basically this thing speaking to him. And that's where he comes across. He's going with the symbols and like drawing them on things, saying that's how the creature speaks, kind of. But they never really dive into that at all. You just see the symbols marked on people or the walls.
And the creature growls. I mean, he does like have vocal cords, so I don't understand.
And then because then he was like, "Oh, he's calling home." I'm like, how can you tell that? He just made it sounded exactly the same as his other roars as he like very slowly chewed off people's ears or eyeballs or like.
I know.
It's like the slowest kill scenes I've ever seen. I was like, what is he doing? Is he just holding him for a second and then an ear would fall off?
Was the woman who got her arm ripped off and you heard like the really like loud crunching noises and it seemed to take over 2 minutes and she's like all in this pain screaming and screaming and screaming. She's still alive, like, and she manages to get away somehow. It's like the creature just like wasn't hungry anymore. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, he wasn't big on finishing off his victims, so I don't really understand his point of injuring them, because he didn't, aside from like chewing on them a little bit, didn't really do much else. So I wondered if maybe the dead people were to, I guess, provide sustenance for the other people that were like trapped under there or willingly staying under there to serve him.
It seemed they were like trying to make the other people victims that came down there because they'd gone crazy. Because it seemed they were like, "Hey, here you go, monster. Please don't eat us. We can't find our way out of the cave. Here's this lost person we're gonna sacrifice." Because they seemed totally crazy. But then at one point there was that weird woman with the really scary eyes and the really mousy face, and she just was like, help me, and then she got dragged away and we never really saw her again, which was also weird.
Was she the same one who was trying to draw the symbol on Marty's head for a while and you weren't sure if she was trying to help him or like eat him?
I don't know. Like, she did the blood thing and she like actually bit into her finger for that, and I was like, what is that supposed to save him? Like, she's marking him so that he's saved, or is she
That's what I
marking him so
thought.
he's going to be eaten? I didn't get it.
No, that was unclear as well. I'm trying to figure out. So they were in the cave. Marty runs off and goes crazy. Somehow the girlfriend ends up getting separated and killed pretty early, I feel like.
She decided she was going back and she was like, bye, y'all. You all won't leave. You won't listen to me. So she turns around. That's what I remember. And they're all like, stay. We shouldn't separate, which always happens in horror movies. Then everybody always gets killed because the rule is you're always supposed to stay together in a group. And they did not.
So I feel like that makes you easier to find in there.
Yeah.
Pepper.
One point before they were like in the cave, when they were kind of scared and they thought they heard the monster, like Jesse's brother got out of the cave. Who walks around barefoot in the forest at night with this tiny little flashlight if they think they heard this monster? Like, just who walks around barefoot in a forest? Like, you don't know what. And then was he barefoot like, in the cave too, or was he wearing shoes? We never really find out. So
yeah, I didn't notice that. I do remember him being barefoot though.
They never really showed whether or not he was barefoot. It was so weird. And then like the music was like very dramatic. And then like I loved it when like they all first got in there and they were all like, we have to make peace with it. And I'm like, make peace with it? Wait, what are you going to do? Like, what is this? Some sort of seance? And no, then they were all stupid. They all turned out their lights and they're like in the dark. And I'm like, oh, that seems like a really bad idea. Now you can't see anything. You don't know what it is. And they're all like, this is good. This is really, really good. I was like, no, this is not good. What are you doing?
Yeah. I feel like half of them were talking about like it in a psychological sense, like we're letting go, it's peaceful, and they're like, we need to be in the dark to do this. And then the other half of them were like, yeah, it's dark, the creature's gonna come and we're gonna see him. Maybe they were talking about different things. I'm hoping that's what they were going for. Otherwise, I'm still just very confused.
I was very confused because the monster, like once we did see it, like you got a little glimpse of it every once in a while. First you heard it growling, then it was really dark. And I did like the lighting that like they didn't show everything at first because that was kind of cool. I like it when they don't show everything. But then when they did the close-ups, it started getting really hokey because at one point you could tell the guy just had like green face paint on and his eyes were like the color brown. And I was just like, come on, people. Because then other times he looked like this really cool alien and he had like the sharp teeth. But then when you saw him from the back, he looked like Gollum from The Lord of the Rings. And I was just like,
yeah. He was even wearing like the little skirt around his waist, kind of the tattered. But so if he's an alien, and I don't even know if that's what he was supposed to be. The only reference to what the thing is that cut scene in the beginning when they're all at the restaurant. And he's like, they said that there's aliens in those caves that got left behind or crash landed. And I'm like, who says that?
I couldn't hear that because it was like so funny. It was like a Japanese film where the soundtrack was like off. So they were talking and everything seemed dubbed. And then the music was so loud that I couldn't understand what Jessie and her brother were talking about. But they kept on having all those sweet, tender moments, even when everybody was getting killed, where they're like, her brother is like, I haven't seen you in so long and I came to be with you. It's like, yeah, I came to die with you in this cave with this alien because I haven't seen you in so long.
It also seemed like a weird relationship for a brother and sister. Like,
I know.
I
I was
didn't
like,
get
is there
that
some
chemistry.
incest going on? Like, it seemed really weird.
Borderline.
Like, yeah, and then they had that like hug, that big hug in the cave, and I was like, this doesn't seem like a brother and sister hug. What is going? It lasted way too long, and it just was like, and they had those like big eye contact like scenes, and it almost seemed they were like, I love you too. We're both
You
gonna
didn't even
die.
get that with the girlfriend.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, he didn't seem that concerned if that was his girlfriend, nor did the other guy. They seemed a little concerned that they were like, oh no, we lost her. But they weren't like overly concerned. They were more concerned about Marty. And it was weird because like Marty kept on like getting found, but then he kept on getting injured and he kept on surviving all this weird stuff. And
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. I'm really unsure because people kept on getting hurt and then you would think that they were dead because it was really serious injuries, but then they'd pop up and it was like, hey, I'm not dead and I'm able to talk. And you're like, what? And they never bandaged any of the wounds or anything. They're just like walking around bleeding and it's just like, what? Like, how do you survive that? I don't understand it.
So at some point, I want to say it was after something, or Sam tells his sister, was it Sam? No. Yeah, it was Sam. That's the only kid I can remember. Tells his sister to go back and get help.
Yeah.
And then so she goes to try to leave the cave and passes out right at the mouth of the cave.
Yeah. I remember that. And then like
gets found.
Yeah, and she has the flashback to her dad who in the hospital. And her dad tells her something. I'm not sure what her dad says, but then she like has all those really happy thoughts of like her dad and everything. And the monster comes up. And then for some reason he just leaves. So like I'm kind of like, wait. So like if you thought happy thoughts, the monster would leave you alone. He only attacked you if you were scared. I'm like,
oh, I didn't make that connection.
Like, I don't know if that was it. I'm like, is this like a ripoff of Stephen King's Alien where like your worst fear? Because at one point the monster kind of did have like a tarantula like look too, where I was like, wait a second, he had like really sharp teeth, and then all of a sudden he looks like he's just got like a tarantula mouth or like 8 legs or something, and he's just like eating people with them. I'm like, I don't know what he was supposed to be. I have no idea.
Well, and I was confused because she crawls out of the cave and passes out after she hits a flare on, and then wakes up in the park ranger's house. So clearly they found her at the mouth of the cave. But this is supposed to be the cave that they can't find without her map.
Yeah.
Hey, don't eat my paper. So I could not figure out why they found it the first time, but couldn't find it the second time, or were very surprised when she threatened them to go back to the cave to find her friends.
I think the woman, I don't know what her name was, the one that got the gun and was like, no, you can't leave, and was really upset that the other park ranger was going to get hurt, because there was some scene, I think it was with Jessie or Marty, I'm not really sure which one, outside the cave, who's like, you have to get help, and like she seemed like she was going to help him, but then they were like holding each other's hands and they were drawing one of the symbols from the cave, and then he seemed like really freaked out, and it seemed, I don't know if like she was one of the people that
I know what you're talking about,
alien, or like she
So I
just
think
had, I don't
he
know.
started hallucinating and he saw her as himself. And then he got freaked out and
I
started
don't
like
get
trying to
that.
kill her. Yeah, so when it flashed back over, it
Huh.
was him, but he was all clean, not bloody and all that. And that was after, so the girl threatens the park rangers to come back to the caves, but then she's like, no, I'm going to go myself.
With the
Which
screwdriver, which was so funny. Like the
she's
screwdriver.
so rude.
And then like I'm like, wait a second, you guys had a shotgun all this time.
Yeah.
And she has a screwdriver. Okay. And you're like both really scared of her. And you're just like sitting there. You could have jumped her with the screwdriver. And then she had something else, which I don't know what it was. And the guy's like, and put that down. Like
There's a broken bottle.
Yeah, your life is being threatened. And you're like, and put that down. That's what you're gonna say. I just
It's a very fatherly tone.
Yes.
Guys.
It cracked me up. And then somehow, I don't know, somehow she just manages to, like, they convince them to let her go, but then they start following her, even though they know there's something bad about the cave. Like, why do they feel guilty? They let them go anyways. They haven't felt guilty about the other people. There are other people down there. They didn't go to help them. What's so special about these people? Like, I don't understand.
And it seems like they could have found the cave before. So yeah, that part, that was a pretty big plot hole that did not get closed.
No.
So then she ends up going back into the cave where she finds Marty, who tells her that her brother is killed for sure, even though she never sees any proof of that. She's just like, cool, that's, I believe you. Sounds pretty trustworthy.
And she doesn't really seem upset. Even though they have this like huge relationship and she hasn't seen him in a while. And I came down here because I was going to spend time with you and I hadn't seen you in a while. And then he's dead. And she's just like, he was dead. And she was going to get a picture of the monster.
Still, which at that point, like, what's the point?
I know.
I didn't understand that.
You've seen people get eaten. So obviously, there's something down there. So you know that your dad wasn't crazy. So what does it matter? Like, I mean, so people believe in town that your dad was crazy. Was she trying to avenge her father? Was she going to go back and just like tell the newspapers and everybody, my dad wasn't crazy. I have this image, and it's just like something you would see in a bad shopping newspaper when you're standing in line with your groceries, like, that boy is found in a cave after 200 years or something.
The National Enquirer.
Yes. It's like so dumb. I don't understand. And then she seems perfectly fine. She doesn't seem like she has any problems when she gets out of the cave. I do like that it was like a last girl standing movie she seemed okay. I do like that because I thought they were going to kill her off for sure.
Didn't they at the very end? I thought the creature ended up pulling her back in the cave.
I don't remember that. See, that's how confusing that movie was. They pulled so many people like in and around like different spaces. And then at one point I remember they were like, why is there water in here? And I was like, yeah, why is there water?
Oh, no, that's right. There's a big flood. And I think that's how Marty dies, maybe? Because they get stuck somewhere and the screen's black and you can hear them calling for each other. And then at some point when she's flicking a lighter, you kind of see the creature behind her, which I thought was probably the coolest scene in the entire movie.
Yes.
They saved it all for just that spot. And I'm pretty sure that's when Marty gets eaten. And somehow she gets like right up to the mouth of the cave, like she's going to escape. And then she hits that flashback with her father. And she's talking to him about asking him how he survived. And he said, well, because I had you. And then it's like, it kind of shoots back to her, and then you realize she doesn't have anybody left. And I think that's when she gets dragged back into the cave and the movie ends.
So you wonder maybe if she gets eaten or if she becomes one of the crazy people living in the cave that's going to sacrifice other people then.
Which they never even explained. Like, that was a weird. I almost feel like a red herring for whatever this thing was supposed to be.
Yeah, and it's like you would think they would want to rescue the people because they were trying to rescue themselves, but they didn't, even though they saw them. I'm like, well, I guess maybe you wouldn't, but like the part that really got me was when there were like all the bones that they were walking on, and they didn't even question that. They just kept on going. It's like there are all these human bones that I'm walking on. Da 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 da. I'm in this place
not
where
my problem.
monster, and they're just like, this is perfectly normal. Oh look, I'm getting choked with a femur, and I'm still going to live, and then I'm gonna keep on going after this happens. Like, you're getting choked with a leg bone, dude. Like, leave the cave, okay? Like, leave the cave.
Also, I think their sound effects person was way more into what they were doing than the actual acting. Because you'd hear all these great, gross, like, crunching and bone dripping and tearing and all this stuff, and then nothing would be happening on the screen. And you're like, oh, cool, that sounds great. Where is it?
Yeah.
And it would be just a few minutes of like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that one was pretty.
They'd be dead by now. Like, they should be dead, but then they'd show up.
And he was real big about standing on people. Like, he just put his foot on a person for a while, and then they have a big scene of something. Seemed like a very human type behavior.
Yeah. It was almost like sometimes he seemed like he was a predator, like he was hunting them. And then other times I was like, is this the creature from the Black Lagoon? Because they had the water. I'm like, and then other times I was just like, I don't know. Maybe this is just somebody that's been living and has like learned to live in the dark and has transformed somehow into this weird monster because of the other people were kind of weird too. I don't get it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Don't think I want to give it another watch to find out. I would say that you could save yourself a lot of time if you just went and watched The Descent and, I don't know, then threw in The Predator for fun, so you get a little bit of aliens and a little bit of caves. And
yeah, you combine the two and you're like, yay, and then you can watch Creature.
Then you're happier.
Too. Yeah, and you'll be like, that's a much better suit. Yes.
It was. Yeah, the teeth, it looks like they've built some sort of aquatic looking creature, and then they're like, but he's supposed to be scary, and so then they just glued like teeth on the outside of the mask because they were like,
yeah,
very Muppet-esque.
Weird. I was like waiting for them to fall off at one point because he had so many problems growling, and I was just like that's probably why he sounded so realistic, because the teeth were so bad.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to find a picture and put it in the or I'll have to find the cover and see, because I want people to see the teeth. Those things were so ridiculous, like almost like rubber. What would you rate this one? What's your rating?
I'm gonna rate this one a 5 because it's so bad and it's so confusing. 5. And like the
worst
makeup
ever.
Yeah, it is the worst movie. And I love B movies. I do love B. And I like, no, I couldn't, this one I couldn't even understand. It's like, if it's B movie and I can't even understand the plot, then what's the point of watching it? Like, and the creature wasn't even good. So, I mean, I couldn't even really laugh at the whole thing and be like, this is funny. And like the whole thing, I was just like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm like, bad writing.
I feel like the subtitles did help, but I also feel like Amazon Prime subtitles are not always accurate, and they can't understand English accents very well. So sometimes the words. Yeah, because I watched it on Amazon Prime. You didn't have subtitles?
I watched it on Amazon Prime, and I didn't have subtitles.
It wasn't all the time. It was like some scenes were just so, I guess, busy that it wouldn't put anything. But then for the quieter scenes, it would automatically put up subtitles.
I must have missed that. I don't know how I missed that.
Well, it didn't help too much because they were not accurate. It kept changing the words that the English people were saying, which I thought was kind of funny. I actually think I would rate this one a 2 out of 5 because it did hold my attention until some parts of it. I guess it didn't hold my attention that well because I had trouble with the plot, but the parts I did pay attention to were dark and moody, and I was like, okay. But I don't think I'd want to watch it again to try to fill in the plot holes that
there were so many plot holes, and like throughout the entire thing, I was just like, why am I watching this? And I just kept on being like, you dummy, why'd you drop your flashlight? Why are you walking in like it, I mean, I guess maybe that would mean that maybe I wouldn't rate it a 5 if I was that engaged, that I was like, why are you doing that? Okay, maybe I would say maybe a 3 would be more honest, but I don't.
No, you can change it because I have watched a movie, and when right after I write my notes, I'll be like, oh, it's only a 2 out of 5, and then the more I think about it, the angrier I get at the whole thing, and then later I'll be like, absolutely not, it was a 5 out of 5, it was the worst piece of crap ever. So it can be a 5 out of 5 currently, and you can have time to process later.
Maybe it could be a 3 out of 5. But I would not advise anybody watch it unless you are really, really high or drunk, or you are in the apocalypse and there's nothing else to do, or
watched everything else on the planet
and there's nothing to do and you have really good drugs, or
yeah,
or somebody challenges you to for like $1 million.
Or somebody tells you have to watch it before you come on a podcast.
Or they threaten to kill you if you don't watch it, then I say yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, those would be good reasons. Or maybe if you were going to get like a new puppy or a new kitten, but other than that, no.
Yeah, I'd do it for a puppy. I'd watch it again for a puppy. I'd probably watch it again for a goldfish.
I got a new beta for my birthday. I had the video up.
I saw it's very pretty.
Yes, it's a Dumbo.
I've seen a lot of pinkish ones. It's a what?
It's a Dumbo because of its big flappy front fins. They call it a Dumbo. I couldn't name him.
You called it Dumple Maiden, and I was like, that is a cool name for a fish.
Yeah, he's a Dumbo because of his huge front fins, and he's only a baby. And I couldn't name him Dumbo because that seemed horrible. So I named him Gordon. I was going to name him Flash. So I kind of like between that, I was like, he's flashy, but I'll just go with Gordon because his face looks like a Gordon. So
he looks like a Gordon, a little bit disgruntled all the time because they got that pout.
Yeah, I love them. Betas, they're great. It's too bad it wouldn't have been like a beta monster. That would have made more sense, like with the water. Like if you could have been like half fish, half human.
The water had nothing. That was like an end game Hail Mary throw in at the end. That
the flood,
made no sense. But a beta fish monster horror movie would be pretty fun.
That would be cool. Like my last one, I named Jaws because I thought it was just a hilarious name for a little beta. He kind of had the personality of Jaws too. He was kind of vicious about his fish food.
Are you ready for some questions?
Sure.
Okay. What is your favorite shitty movie?
My favorite shitty movie, I would have to say, is Peter Jackson's Dead Alive.
I just had a conversation earlier today, someone telling me I needed to watch that. I have not watched that yet. I know. So I heard really, really good things.
It's funny.
And I didn't know it was by Peter Jackson. That seems like a weird pick for a horror director.
It does. My other stuff is I love Bruce Campbell. So any Bruce Campbell thing. Bubba Hotep. Oh my gosh. That's another one of my favorites.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I adore that.
What is it about the B horror movies that endears you to them? What do you like about them so much?
I think I like the fact that the the actors don't really take themselves too seriously. Like they know they're having fun and they try to act as well as they can, but they also know that it's a B movie. And there are so
Mm-hmm.
many fun creatures, and they have like some of the goofiest lines from the writers that you just can't help but laugh. It's just really fun. And sometimes they get really cool cameos. Like, I love it when Ron Jeremy shows up in some of them. That makes me
Ron
laugh.
Jeremy.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
he
I've
was in one of the show, right?
yeah,
The army, or no, the Bruce Campbell one where he did the TV version. I can't
yeah.
remember the name of it right now.
I can't
Evil
remember the
Dead.
name either, but like, or like they have a Bruce Campbell cameo in something. Like they just have like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes really cool stuff. Or I think Quentin Tarantino has done a couple appearances, but don't quote me on that. I just like it when they find really cool people and they put them in there. And I like the monster effects because the monsters are usually just they make me laugh. And the music that they put in there is usually actually pretty good music.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like them.
What is the worst movie you've ever seen? Doesn't have to be a horror movie.
Um, the worst movie I have ever seen, and people are going to hate me for this, but it's going to be The Notebook. I know.
Agree 1,000%. I
I
hate
just
that movie.
I don't like the book either. And you know what's so funny is my brother absolutely adores that movie and the book, and he's gotten both for presents from my mom. And I don't understand why he loves it so much because he doesn't read very much and he's never read the book that he got, and he's never read anything else by that author. But I
It's
just think
Nora Roberts, right?
no, it's a guy named Nicholas something or
Oh.
other. Nicholas Sparks.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I wonder who Nora Roberts is. That name just came right into my brain.
Nora Roberts is another author I think I don't like.
Fair.
I
All
think
right.
she's
Well,
a
I agree
romance
with
author.
I agree with The Notebook. I think that is one of the worst movies ever made. What kind of the horror genre is your favorite? What subgenre do you like prefer?
I'm going to say that I love the creature features and the monsters. Those are my absolute favorites.
Now, is that in movies or in books also?
In books, for me, I'm pretty all over the place. It just has to be well written. I don't care what it is. But if it's a movie, I definitely will gravitate towards, okay, my first love is sharks. So it doesn't matter if it's like a B movie or a really good movie. I will watch any shark movie, like, or any dinosaur movie. It does not matter. Or if it's dinosaur like horror books, it does not matter if it's bad. That'll be like my first pick too. But as far as like horror books, I like to read everything because it helps me craft my own writing, and it's just entertaining. And I actually write more than horror too, so it's kind of fun.
You're so multifaceted.
I
do.
am.
I will watch every single terrible shark movie that comes across anywhere. And I think the only one that I've seen that I would not watch again would be I think it was called Black Demon.
I haven't seen that one.
It was worth a one watch, but it was like had really big racist undertones, and I wasn't sure if it was trying to make it like a jokey. I wasn't really sure, but it made me uncomfortable, and I did not like that part of it. So I definitely would not watch that one again. And the shark wasn't that cool. But other than that, I have not finished The Sharks Under Paris either because it was making me angry.
Yeah,
not very correct.
The sharks in the river you're talking about.
Yeah,
the river
in the sun. Yeah,
I haven't finished that either because it upset me too. I've gotten halfway through and haven't been able to finish it. So I guess we have the same opinion. I thought it would be so cool. I was like,
That's what
this
I
is
thought too.
awesome, but no, it's not. It's really bad.
I haven't even made it to the scene that was in the trailer where they're dissecting the shark to see what anatomical changes. Like it was so just incorrect and poorly, not even poorly written, it just didn't make sense. Nope. And when you're pitching it from the trailer as a movie that's like shark, yeah, I don't know. I think I had my expectations too high, and it was just so disappointing that I had to turn it off before I got like half an hour through it.
I thought it was going to be like a bull shark, and they've started breeding in the Seine because bull sharks can live in really murky water. And I thought they were going to somehow be like, oh, somebody accidentally left 2 in there and then they managed to survive. But that's not the way it seemed to be going. So then I was like, I didn't get very far. So I didn't get to the dissection part.
So you like creature features and you said you like to get it through movies. What would you say you prefer, movies over books, or what is your horror preference when it comes to taking in these things?
Oh gosh.
Audiobooks, written books.
I'm going to say books, and I'm a traditional person where I actually like to hold paper in my hand. And I'll admit I'm one of those people that really likes the feel of different papers. And I love the smell of books. And I am that dork that when I get a new book that I've been published in, I will smell the paper and the ink.
You can do whatever you want. It's your book.
It's weird, but I'll be like, new book that I've been written in. It's
like a new car smell.
Yes, it is. But I don't like that one as much. I like gasoline more, which I know is bad. I mean,
kills more brain cells.
Yeah, I don't smell gasoline, but like when I'm at the gas pump, it's like it doesn't bother me.
What would you like to see more of in horror? What kind of topics do you think need more attention or more written about them?
I think we need to be focusing more on common day issues that are going on right now. And I really wish that there was more eco horror. And I know that it's starting to become a thing, but it's really an issue that is affecting us. And it seems like it gets overlooked a lot for slashers and for creature features and for psychological horror, and I love all of that, but like I would like more eco horror. That would be good.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I already just read you that one. What do you have coming up for us? What are you working on?
Well, I am writing I'm not sure if it's a novella or if it's going to turn into a novel. I'm writing a witchy type story with Hetty Johannesson from Unveiling Nightmares. Right. And I have a story coming out around Halloween from Crystal Lake in an anthology called Dastardly Damsels, which is all about turning like fairy tale characters upside down that are supposed to be good and making them dastardly. So it's all dastardly women. And then on Halloween from Gloomhouse Publishing, I have Flesh-Eating Turtles coming out. So that's based on science, but it is also splatterpunk. And I based some of it on my turtle, actually, that I have named Bradbury. So he's 13 years old. So he was part of the research, but then I also used CRISPR DNA, if anybody knows what that is, because I'm a real nerd. When I do write things that have to do with some things like that, I like to research my science and get it right. But then I want to make sure it's really right, so I don't have people like writing back going, it's not really this. You didn't do this right. It's actually this. That annoys me, but I'm sure somebody will write me and say something is wrong, and I'll just be like, okay, thank you for bringing that up. And I'll be nice about it. But inside, I'll be seething. I'll be like, I made a mistake. I can't stand it.
But you just got to tell them it's your artistic license. You're taking a scientific artistic license.
True.
So, and then I know you also have one you released earlier this year for the sake of Bridget, right?
Yes. And that one is kind of a neighborly feud between two neighbors, Lydia and Nora. She spells her name different. She spells her name with an H, and I do not. And it gets very gross and gruesome what they do to each other. And finally, Lydia goes over to Nora's place and sets all her beehives on fire, which upsets this goddess named Bridget, who goes on this complete warpath and tortures and destroys as many people as she can between these two families. And I guess I didn't expect it to be erotica, but it got classified as erotica and horror on Amazon. So
I guess
I wrote erotica and horror at the same time. It's a lot about bee. I love bees, but I learned a lot of bee facts because I did a lot of bee videos to try to get people interested. So I learned way more than I knew about bees before. A lot about bees. They're very interesting.
You like them more or less after learning all of this about them?
I actually like them more, and I found out that like there are different reasons why they sting you than like being afraid. So, and other things about them that you wouldn't normally think. So it was quite interesting. I feel bad for the males, though. I do. They have it rough.
The queen's kind of used up.
I know.
What's that?
I know the queen's got it made.
Yeah, really. Where can people find your work right now? I know on Amazon.
On Amazon, and also they can find me on godless.com. Those are the two places that they can find me.
I'll make sure I link that as well. And then are you on Instagram or TikTok or anything?
I have a link tree, and right now I can't remember what it is, but I can send it.
If you want to send it to me, I'll link that. That way they can just hit everything.
Yeah, it's got everything on there. And I just started a Substack, so I'll put that on there too. I changed from WordPress.
And then final question, what have you been reading and or watching this week that is not shitty?
I am reading,
That's cool.
I'm reading Ain't No Witch by Jonathan. I think his last name is Grant. He's going to kill me if I got it wrong, but I have like short-term memory problems with my migraines right now. I'm reading The Other Side, which is one of Thomas Stewart's first books. It's a collection, and actually, if people don't know, he's not just splatterpunk. He writes traditional horror stories too. And his first two stories, his first two collections, The Other Side and Damned Whispers, if you haven't picked them up and you like traditional stories that aren't splatterpunk, you should really check them out because they are amazing. Other things that I have been reading, can't talk about because that's all work stuff.
Super secret.
Super secret, yes. But the other stuff I could talk about.
Have you watched anything that's not besides the one I made you watch?
I've watched The Harder They Fall, which was a really cool splatterpunk Western.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I really liked that the outlaw gangs in there, and I loved the music. I've really gotten into watching Westerns, which I never liked before. And for some reason in the past week or two, I've gotten very into. And I'm trying to write, this sounds very weird for me, at least to me, because I don't write Westerns. And I also don't write a lot of sci-fi, but I'm trying to submit to a place. And I'm writing a splatterpunk Western sci-fi werewolf alien story.
Wow. That is ambitious.
It's going quite well. I also want to write a space opera, and I actually didn't know what that was. Okay, people, don't write me and be like, you're stupid if you don't know. Yes, okay, found out that Star Wars is a space opera. I actually already have watched a lot of space operas. Okay, I know. I just didn't know the definition like entirely.
I thought you were talking about like a Repo Genetic Opera or something to that.
Yeah.
When I think opera, I always think there's got to be music involved.
Yeah, no. Well, I thought that too, but no, space opera is like Star Wars, things like that.
Okay.
So
you learn something new every day.
I did.
Space opera. Okay, well, make sure you send me the link tree after this, and I will link it.
Okay.
And I would love to hear everyone else one if they've seen it, but my guess is probably nobody else has because it was pretty bad. Or if you want to send us suggestions for anything else, you can find us on Instagram or email us at simmfwpodcast. But I have enough shitty movies, so really, guys, I don't need any more. I'm having no lack of them on Amazon Prime is like gold for shit movies. So thank you, Onyx, for coming on the show. And everyone, please go out and watch shitty movies so we can talk about them together.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.